All right, what is up, guys? Today I'm going to break down my track Here to Flow. Came out on Material on Friday. It's a percussive kind of daytime groove, at least that's how I like to imagine it. It's just got kind of a funky bass line, some weird synths, and just like a cool, chill vocal. Yeah, I think that it turned out pretty cool. Had to wait a bit of time for this one to come out, but I'm stoked that it's finally released. So you can buy it now on Beatport and listen on Spotify. I would love the support. And yeah, I hope you guys like the track. So today I'm going to break it down for you all. We can go ahead and just give the track a listen in case you haven't heard it yet. We won't listen to the whole thing, but we'll just listen to some of it. And yeah, we'll just see what you guys think.
Get down from here to flow. Here to flow, here to flow. Get down from here to flow.
Okay, so yeah, that is the gist of it, at least so far. So I'll go ahead and take you through the whole thing, show you the various elements that I added into the track to make it more exciting, make it interesting. We'll go ahead and start out same way that I start out all my tracks, and that is with the drums. So the drums for me in house music, probably the most important part. I think that it's important to definitely dial those in, spend a lot of time on them. I would definitely say the drums are the point of the track where I spend the most time dialing them in, and it's kind of how I start every track. So you notice up here I've got a couple references. The way I usually start is I'll pull these down to -8 dB, and then I'll kind of try and match whatever that volume is to what I'm making, and then that leaves me headroom. So later on, when I'm adding a master like Ozone, it'll just kind of boost the levels back up to normal without having running into any issues. So yeah, rule of thumb is kind of I start my kick drum around -8, and that usually matches my references. And then everything else I don't put above -8. So like the bass line will sit, yeah, like -11, and then like the vocals, effects, all of that'll sit behind that in volume. And it really just helps you create a clean mix at the end of the day. So we'll go ahead and listen to just the drums on their own. Yeah, so we got a good amount of stuff going on there. You've got a lot of percussion kind of going in, like bouncing in and out in the low end. You've got some tambourines, and yeah, a couple different grooves and top loops here. So yeah, we'll go ahead and listen to these each on their own. Yeah, so a bunch of variation there. We're hitting kind of frequencies all over the spectrum. You've got, you know, a lot of stuff in the low mids there. And then you've got, you know, some various hits probably in that like 500, 800 region. So yeah, I mean, a good diversification of drum sounds. Yeah, and so let me see automation wise. Don't think I'm doing too much here. A little bit of EQing on the kick. That's not doing anything. This is a good kick plugin. It's just kind of a quick way to add different elements to it. If you want to add more punch, if you want to add more low end, you want to compress it. I think that one's free. I'm adding a little bit of reverb here to my clap bus. I would suggest that. That's another thing for me. Like, I don't know why it took me a while to realize I should do that, but a lot of my like first tracks are like very dry, and I didn't add reverb to the drums. Definitely on the claps, I would say you want to have some reverb. It just creates more space and just kind of fills the drums a little bit better. Let's look at what else. Oh, I was gonna say, oh, never mind. That's for the bass. So yeah, that's pretty much all of the drums there. In terms of samples, this is looks like the kick is from, I think that sample is from Mars. You can look that up. They have that those sample packs on Splice. There's a million of them, but they're all really good, like one shots. So those have some great drums in it. And then yeah, it looks like I got this hi-hat from the Mars sample pack too. Yeah, so I use a variety. I'll use Splice, I'll use Loop Cloud, and then buy kind of artist series sample packs. So, sometimes I'll get ads on Instagram for like cool new sample packs that come out. I'll go kind of give a listen to the demo of it and see if I like it. But yeah, I think sometimes it's worth buying those individual sample packs. They can be really good, but there's also a ton of good stuff on Loop Cloud. One thing that I would advise when you're looking at samples, I think it's very helpful sometimes to look in the sample the pack section, not searching in Splice by just the key and just like the instruments or the genres, because if you look in packs, a lot of times those sounds will go really good together. So you might find like in, I don't know, say it's like a percussive tech house track, you'll find like, okay, this top loop goes well with this perk loop, and then the shaker goes really well with it. And I've made tracks before with like mostly one sample pack, so you can get a lot of good stuff from sample packs, and they go well together. So they're kind of meant to go well together. So just a little bit of a tip if you're kind of lacking ideas and stuff. So yeah, that's a little bit about where I'm finding my samples. I also have my own library, so out of Splice, Loop Cloud, and all of those, pull ones out that I really like. Sometimes I'll have a day where I'm like, okay, I don't feel like making a track, so I'm just gonna work on samples, and I'll just go like make groups. So like make top loops and add like 20 top loops and then 20 new kicks or something like that. So then I have something to pull from when I'm making a new track. So yeah, that's pretty much it on the drums. I guess the only thing I would say when I guess mixing down, let's see if I'm doing anything special here. It doesn't look like I'm doing a lot. Sometimes I'll do a good amount of EQing on the buses to kind of get the sections to fit together, but I don't know if I'm really doing that here. Yeah, it doesn't really look like I've touched any of those. So not much in terms of mix down. Those are just samples and levels. So we'll keep listening here when the bass comes in. So the bass, it's a preset on Serum. This was one of my first bass presets I ever made. I was inspired by a lot of John Summit's early stuff, Witch Doctor, Thin Line, Viva Voce. He just had this kind of dark, subby bass line that he used on everything. He would saturate everything above 100 hertz, and it worked extremely well for him. And so when I first started making music, I saw that and I was like, okay, I just want to make a simple saw bass line like that. I think it was a Zen World video, so watched the Zen World video, created one, and this is one I still use today. So like 6 years later, I'm still using this preset I made. Yeah, just basically a saw wave. And you can, I mess around with a filter sometimes if I want to add some of the low mids in, but overall it's just a great preset that I use on a ton of my stuff. We'll give a listen to just the bass. Take a look at what I'm using here. I'm using G, A sharp, and D I think that is the first, third, and the fifth notes, but let me check. So I've got this handy tool here. It's called Hook Theory. You can go search any key or scale, and it'll just kind of tell you what notes are in it, and then it'll also give you common chord progressions. So I've been using this for a long time, super helpful. Here we've got G, A sharp, and D. That's what I'm using in my track. I think hitting the fifth note sounds really good in music, so I always kind of try and hit the fifth. Yeah, and so that's just a little tip in terms of when you're looking at how you want to write your bass lines or your chord progressions, stuff like that. It's a great tool. I think I'm using some, I imagine I'm saturating this a bit with, yeah, Saturn. So we've got a big boost above 100 hertz here. We can listen here before and after. Yeah, so really just boosting those low mids. That's gonna make a big difference, especially when you're like listening on headphones or in the car, areas where you can't hear that sub as well. So definitely nice to hear those mids. And also when it's a track that's very dominated by the drums and the bass line, I think it's really nice to have a bass that carries that low mid weight. It's just gonna fill the track out more and make it sound a little bit better than just the sub. So yeah, that's pretty much the bass line. When it comes to writing bass lines, yeah, I mean, I feel like I'll reference hook theory, but I'm really messing around a lot. Like it depends on if I'm doing a rolling bass line or something like a syncopated bass line, I guess like this. But it's really it's a lot of trial and error with bass lines for me. I don't have any like specific template I use or way I do them. One way I do add variation that I think is cool now is jumping octaves when I'm writing basses. So if you look at this here, every once in a while, instead of having these notes down here, I boost them up here, and that just is sounds pretty cool when you do that. Looks like I've got a reverse kick here. Gives a little bit more energy and variation. But yeah, that's pretty much it there. I'm starting to draw in the vocal and another little vocal hit. These are both, I think these are all splice vocals.
Get down, cause I'm here to flow.
Yeah, got it right there. So yeah, no secret there. Splice vocals. This is a hit. This is another vocal hit. And yeah, that's pretty much the bass line. So we'll go move forward to the build now.
Get down, cause I'm here to flow. Get down, cause I'm here to flow. Get down, cause I'm here to flow. 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 Get down, cause I'm here to flow.
Okay, yeah, so adding a little bit of FX, I'm taking out the low end, so I'm just low cutting this kick drum here, 245 hertz, doing that with the bass line too, 180, and then right as it gets closer, just pulling almost all of it out. Doing the same thing with the drums. I think it's important to do this on your builds, especially if you're making more minimal type of music. I feel like there's kind of like two options. There's going this more minimal route where you're like taking things away, or you can add snare rolls, effects, white noise, all of that. I think this is becoming a little bit more of a popular way to do it, is you're just kind of sucking everything out. And then so when you bring the drop back in, it sounds really big. So yeah, this is kind of the way I've been doing my builds lately. I mean, you still have white noise, you still have a lot of the effects and stuff, but really just taking everything away before it comes back in. So yeah, trying to think if there's anything else on here. There really is not much. Other than the FX, I've got, yeah, this riser. Okay, we'll go ahead and listen to the drop here, and then we'll talk a little bit about that and other elements I add in.
Get down to hear the flow.
Yeah, so a couple like synth elements I'm adding in, doing like some triple or quadruple kicks here. I'm really taking everything out for a split second and then bringing it back in. But yeah, not really adding like anything crazy or that changes the track much. It's still just grooving along, but yeah, just a couple new synth elements. So I think this was from a sample pack I bought. I don't remember what it was, but that's SOBV. Super cool, really weird, hypnotic kind of vibe. Yeah, just doing some more vocal hits, and then I added this other synth in here, and that is from the same sample pack, it looks like. So yeah, that's pretty much the drop. Just, yeah, bringing the groove back in and adding these hi-hats here for a little bit of extra energy. Now this is that kind of like hissy hi-hat. I think you've noticed like in a lot of the UK stuff, they've like steered away from that like classic hi-hat. I don't know what it's called, but we're using it's this. I guess this is an 808, but it just almost sounds like it's like hissing a little bit more. It's more of like a tss instead of a th. So yeah, I've kind of used this hi-hat in a lot of my stuff lately. It's got that more like scissory kind of sound to it, but I think it works really well in the track. It sounds good. Oh, another thing I'm doing is I'm doing this little hat hit every once in a while. But yeah, just a little bit of variation in the drums to keep it interesting. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it there. We can move on to the second build. The way I structure my tracks is it's usually like a 16 bar build and before the first drop, and then like 24 or 32 in the second. So I usually make my second build a bit more dragged out. What is this? 8, 16, 24, 30, it looks like. So like, yeah, 30 bars. We'll give this a listen. Okay, so yeah, adding a little bit more here. We've got I basically changed this, or I cut this in half, so it's just repeating over and over again. And then I've got some Endless Smile on it, so that's just adding some reverb and some delay. I've got this new synth here. It's definitely not a snare roll. Just yeah, makes it a little bit more interesting and adds some energy. And then after this little bit of silence, I'm doing this kind of bass roll here. I thought this was super cool. Got to be my favorite part of the track. I think it's just super fun. So I'm just really hitting like all of the notes in G, like all the way down. So it sounds like this. And that's just, yeah, like right before the drop there. So fun way to do it. And then we've got this, yeah, like quadruple kick drum. This is actually a different kick. I'm not using my kick that I use for most of the track. I switched it up. I found this other kick drum. It just sounded really good. So it sounds kind of similar, but it's got a little bit more of like a punch warpiness to it. And then, yeah, here in the second drop, it looks like I'm just having kind of like all of the energy come in at once. So rather than waiting to bring in the big open hi-hat, I've got it from the start. I've got the tambourines in there. Yeah, really just adding a little bit more energy, so it's a bit different than the first drop. But I would also say I'm not one who likes to really overcomplicate my second and third drops. I like to add a bit of variation, but I don't like to force it. I think a lot of times people feel like they need to add like some new synth element to add all this new energy and whatnot. But my belief is, you know, if the drums and the bass are really good, then they should hit on their own, and they should really be all right on their own. And you shouldn't really have to do a ton more. You know, obviously for some tracks you want that other main element in there. Maybe it's a synth or a big vocal or something that you bring in. But yeah, I think I feel like there's a lot of stuff in tech house now where you're almost like fed this ear candy that comes in at different times, and it almost feels forced. Like it doesn't feel like it fits. And so I like to more or less play the careful game with adding new sounds and just rely more on my drums and my bass to carry the weight of my track. So just kind of my 2 cents on you know how I differ my drops. I'll still make sure to add a bit of variation. So like I think I'm gonna in the third drop I'm adding like one of these again where I'm doing like a bass roll. I'm kind of stopping it at different times, maybe doing some diversification in the vocals, but yeah, overall it's pretty similar to the first one.
Get down, 'cause I'm here to flow.
Okay, yeah, so that's the third build, and since my second build was 30 bars, I wanted to just make the third one a little bit shorter, and then I also wanted to add a little bit of variation to the third drop, so I bring the synth in right away here, and I don't think I use the vocal at all, the here to flow vocal. So yeah, just making the drops different, but also not really adding anything, you know, huge or significant that changes the track. Yeah, I think the drums and the bass carry it, so I don't really think I needed to add much else. But anyways, yeah, I think that's pretty much, yeah, that's like all of the track there. Hope that was helpful for you guys. If you have any questions, something that I didn't explain about the video, you can drop that in the comments section. But yeah, if you have any other questions, let me know. Always down to chat and talk production. So hope that was helpful. And again, yeah, the track's out. So listen, buy the song on Beatport, rinse it, you know, download it on or play it on Spotify. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the track. Cheers.